Welcome back students to Gyanmanjari online education. In our main textbook Flamingo, today we are going to discuss this lesson, the fourth lesson. The name of this lesson is Indigo and the writer of this lesson is Louis Fischer. Okay students, so let's learn this lesson in detail. In last video lecture, we were discussing about the fight of Mahatma Gandhi against the British. Actually, it was the call from the court. Mahatma Gandhi was arrested and very politely Gandhiji told that actually he was not the law breaker. He didn't want to break the rule, but actually he followed that principle of morality and humanity. Because suppose Gandhiji followed the rule and he left the place from that area, then what should be of the peasants? Mahatma Gandhi wanted to have the peasants, and that's why he disobeyed the rule. And it so happened that judge declared that for several days he is not going to declare any kind of decision and the result will be pending. So without any kind of bail also, Gandhiji was relieved and he was liberal and he was free. And ultimately people could realize this thing, and they all were with, especially the peasants, the sharecroppers, they all were supporting Gandhiji, and the court also realized that actually Gandhiji was innocent, and he very politely declared all the things. And the governor of that area at that time, Mahatma Gandhi, lived for several and quite around a year in Champaran, and the governor could realize that this fellow is that much strong and he could go inside the case, and he covered all the things. Now here also Gandhiji tries to fight for the peasants. Actually it was about the indigo plants, that because of indigo plant the peasants, the farmers were exploited by the governor and the landlords. Here Gandhiji requested to landlords for the return the amount of money for the peasants. Actually, farmers believed that Mahatma Gandhi will make it possible for 100% amount of money actually they wanted. But here Gandhiji requested, he proposed for 50% of amount, and that's why they became shocked. And Gandhiji convinced them, he explained that actually landlords were about to return the amount of money only 25%, and he could convince them up to 50%. That is also significant thing for all of them, that actually now landlords are ready to return the amount of money, and it was also the thing of prestige for them. Okay, so now discuss this lesson in detail and further. Suppose you find any kind of difficulty, you are free to ask me. Okay, so and this you can keep your textbook also with you. The same thing you will find in your textbook. Suppose you don't keep it, the same thing you will find here also. Events justified Gandhiji's position. Within a few years, the British planters abandoned their estates, which reverted to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping disappeared. Now, because of indigo sharecropping, the majority of the peasants were exploited, and now it disappeared. Why? Because now landlords who were actually giving the land to the peasants on the rate of indigo plant, they also were forced and they were also convinced to return the amount of money because of this exploitation and indigo plant. And that's why slowly and steadily this indigo sharecropping was disappeared. Gandhi never contented himself with large political or economic solutions. He saw the cultural and social backwardness in the Champaran village and wanted to do something about it immediately. Actually, for this, Gandhiji had not his own selfishness. He was not doing anything for his economical benefits or any kind of benefits or social benefits, but he observed this poverty in especially Champaran area, and that's why he wanted to take stand for the peasants, and that's why he was doing all these things. And he wanted to remove all these things immediately. He appealed for teachers Mahadev Desai and Narhari Parikh, two young men who had just joined Gandhi as disciples. Their wives volunteered for the work. Now, Gandhiji required the teachers, here the name given here, that these two people became the kind of disciple. Mahadev Bhai Desai and Narhari Parikh, two young men who had just joined Gandhi as disciple, and their wives volunteered for the work. Volunteered for the work, it means they didn't take any kind of amount of money. They wanted to serve the people. Next paragraph, several more came from Bombay, Pune and other distant parts of the land. Devadas, Gandhi's youngest son, arrived from the ashram, and so did Mrs. Gandhi. Primary schools were opened in 6 villages. Kasturbai taught the ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. That is also very important. See, personal cleanliness and community sanitation. Here they were requiring teachers, and here it is also important thing. Suppose the question has been asked in examination that how many schools were opened in the in how many villages, then you can say the primary schools were opened in 6 villages. Okay, so that is also important, that Gandhiji was trying to develop the education. See, students, education is very much important. We should think that we are educated or we are literate. To be literate means we know reading and writing, but to be educated means we appeal also our mind. We think also in our deep. Suppose we treat somebody very rudely, not sophisticatedly, it means we are not educated person. The kind of educated person treats everybody softly, politely and well mannered. So that is very much significant thing for us. To be educated, to be literate only is not sufficient. We have to treat all the people in the equal manner, in polite manner. We should respect the people, especially our parents, our family members, our teachers, aged people, all the people, because each person requires respect. So these things, this morality should be taught, and these things can be gained with the help of education only. Students, the new words we can find from this passage, the first one is justified, and the meaning of this word is marked by a good or legitimate reason, based on the reason, good reason we can say. Abandoned means deserted or inhabited, means not living on that area. Estate means property. That word may be very much familiar for you. Reverted means returned, and contented means willing to accept something or satisfied. Okay, the contented meaning here you can better find satisfied. That is the kind of verb we can say. Okay, now let's see the next paragraph. Health conditions were miserable, very pitiable, it means not well. Gandhi got a doctor to volunteer his services for 6 months. Actually, he required a doctor to volunteer especially. Why volunteer? Because he required the doctor who actually cannot take the amount of money, who can serve the people. 3 medicines were available: castor oil, quinine and sulfur ointment. Anybody who showed a clotted tongue was given a dose of castor oil. Anybody with malaria fever received quinine plus castor oil. Anybody with skin eruptions received ointment plus castor oil. These 3 were medicines, and for these 3 diseases, these treatments were given. Students, you may underline also castor oil, quinine and sulfur ointment. Okay, these three were the main medicines, and here in this passage you can find the usage of this medicine for the various diseases, 3 diseases and these 3 medicines. It can be asked in examination also. Okay, let's see the next. Gandhi noticed the 55th filthy state of women's clothes. He asked Kasturbai to talk to them about it. One woman took Kasturbai into her hut and said, "Look, there is no box or cupboard here for clothes. The sari I am wearing is the only one I have." Here Gandhiji could observe the lack of clothes, especially for the women, and he wanted to remove this problem, and that's why he talked to Kasturbai, and Kasturbai went to the lady. Actually, that lady told that you can go inside my hut, and inside the hut they both went and they could see, and the lady told that there is no box of saris in my hut, because I have the only sari right now I have on my body. It is the only sari that I have, not anything else and not any other. And that's why actually that is the mark of poverty, especially for the women. And now Gandhiji want to remove this problem from the society. Now the new words some we can find from this passage. The first one we can find is miserable, means unhappy, sad, or we can say pitiable, pathetic. Okay, next is volunteer, means a person who offers his service free of cost. Means suppose there is the doctor who wants to volunteer, and then that doctor will serve the people, will give all this kind of treatments, but will not take any kind of amount of money. That is called volunteer. Nowadays, in the time of COVID-19, we can find some doctors, very genuine doctors, who actually volunteer themselves. They don't take any kind of amount of money. This kind of doctors also we can find in the society. Next is eruptions. It means here a spot, rash or other mark appearing suddenly on the skin. That is eruption. Okay, let's see the next paragraph. During his long stay in Champaran, his stay means here Mahatma Gandhi's stay. Okay, we are talking about here Mahatma Gandhi. Stay in Champaran, Gandhi kept a long distance watch on the ashram. He sent regular instructions by mail and asked for financial accounts. When he was living during his stay, when he was living in Champaran, actually he kept a long distance watch from the ashram, because he was not there at ashram, and that's why he kept long distance watch on the ashram. How? He sent regular instructions by mail. Suppose he requires any kind of instruction to give to the people in the ashram, he gives this kind of instruction, and he was running the ashrama also very well. In this manner he kept the watch on the ashram. And for the financial accounts, once he wrote to the residents, means the people who were living there, that it was time to fill in the old latrine trenches and dig new ones, otherwise the old ones would begin to smell bad. The Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhi's life. "What I did," he explained, "was a very ordinary thing. I declared that the British could not order me about in my own country." Now Mahatma Gandhi, here Gandhiji, wants to begin something new, and every time he is ready to serve the people, to serve the nation, and that's why he started this thing, and he ultimately exclaimed in that manner that what I did, what I did. It means he was surprised and he was amazed, and ultimately he was satisfied inside his heart. He exclaimed, "Was a very ordinary thing, that I didn't do anything special. That was nothing that actually I did. I declared that the British could not order me about in my own country, that I am in my own country, India. Britishers are actually outsiders, so in my own country they cannot rule upon me and they cannot order me. Students, here we can find some new words. The first one is instructions, means orders or commands, and the next one is residents, means locals. It means the local people who live there. तो स्टूडेंट्स, आज के लेक्चर में हमने ये डिस्कस किया कि गांधी जी जो अपनी फाइट को है वो बहुत ही आगे ले जाते हैं और वो चंपारण में रहते हैं, पर सिर्फ चंपारण में रह के ही वो ऐसे नहीं है कि वो अपने आश्रम को भूल गए हैं। वो अपने आश्रम पे बहुत ही लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस से भी वो अच्छी तरह से वॉच करते हैं, अच्छी तरह से अपने आश्रम की देखभाल करते हैं, उनके फाइनेंशियल अकाउंट्स और सभी चीज़ों की वो अच्छे से देखभाल करते हैं और वहाँ के लोगों को वो कैसे ज़्यादा हेल्पफुल हो सके उसकी वो ट्राई करते हैं। इसके बीच ऐसे होता है कि गांधी जी ऑब्जर्व करते हैं कि इंडिया के लोगों में काफ़ी हद तक पॉवर्टी बढ़ चुकी है, स्पेशली वुमेन के बारे में उन्हें पता चलता है कि उनके पास पहनने के लिए सफिशिएंट क्लोथ्स भी नहीं है। फिर वो अपनी वाइफ कस्तूरबाई को बोलते हैं कि वो लेडी के पास जाए और उनसे पूछे, और वो लेडी उससे बताती है, उन्हें अपनी हट के अंदर ले जाती है और उन्हें बताती है कि देयर इज़ नो बॉक्स ऑफ साड़ीज़ इन माई हट, मेरी हट में कोई भी साड़ी का यहाँ पे कोई बॉक्स नहीं है, मैंने जो पहनी है वो एक ही साड़ी है जो कि मेरे पास पहनने को है और कुछ भी मेरे पास है नहीं। सो इस तरह से यहाँ पे पॉवर्टी का जो पॉइंट है वो अच्छी तरह से मार्क किया गया है। नाउ गांधी जी ऐसे डिसाइड करते हैं कि उन्हें इंडिया में से पॉवर्टी को अच्छी तरह से रिमूव करना होगा और इसके साथ साथ जो इंडिगो प्लांट्स का जो क्रॉपिंग हो रहा था वो अच्छे से डिसअपियर होना शुरू हो चुका है, बिकॉज लैंडलॉर्ड्स को ऐसे पता चला है कि ऐसे तो कुछ नहीं होने वाला, क्योंकि गांधी जी जो कोई भी अमाउंट ऐसे बचता था और जो कोई भी अमाउंट की वजह से फार्मर्स को, पीजेंट्स को एक्सप्लॉइट करते थे, वो उन्हें बहुत ही वो शोषित करते थे, उनकी वजह से गांधी जी जो वो अमाउंट है वो उन्हें वापस दिला देते थे, तो उनका तो कोई प्रॉफिट होता ही नहीं था। सो धीरे धीरे उन्हें ये समझ में आया और वो जो इंडिगो क्रॉपिंग है वो धीरे धीरे से यहाँ से डिसअपियर होना शुरू हो जाता है। सो अप टू दिस पोर्शन स्टूडेंट्स वी डिस्कस्ड इन दिस लेक्चर, remaining portion we will discuss in the next lecture. Suppose you have any kind of difficulty, any kind of query, you are free to ask me. Thank you. Have a nice day.